Hey guys, this is Ms. Forness. This is actually not 2.2 but 2-3 or 2.3 test review. So I'm going to go ahead and work out not all the review but some different problems from every section. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first section. We're doing adding and subtracting polynomials. So I'm going to start with number 1. Write it a little bit bigger so you guys can see. I have 8x cubed minus 4x squared minus 3x plus 1. And then I'm subtracting another polynomial, so 1 minus 5x squared plus x. Alright, so the first thing, they're just adding and subtracting, so you're just going to distribute and simplify. So the first thing I'm going to do, I always tell my kids, what are your math spidey senses telling you to do with this negative right here? So I'm going to distribute the negative to each term. So this guy is going to stay the same. He's chilling for right now. Here I'm going to distribute my negative, so I have negative 1. The negative times the negative is a positive. And the negative times a positive is a negative. Be careful with your signs. And so there we go. So now what you're going to do is you're going to simplify. So I'm going to smush things that look the same. So start with highest power. So right here I have the highest power with the cubed. So I have 8x cubed. There's nothing else with 8x cubed, so he's done. Now I'm looking for squared. So you guys see here this guy has negative 4x squared and this guy is 5x squared. So I can smush these guys together. So 5 minus 4 is positive 1. So just going to put positive x squared. Now you don't have to go in like ascending order or descending order. I like to. That's just kind of how we do it in pre-cal also. So I want to make sure I always go from biggest to smallest to make sure I also just don't forget anybody. Alright, so I did those. So these guys are done. Now I'm looking for the next power. So x to the first power. So I have this guy and this guy. So a negative 3 minus a 1 gives me a negative 4x. So he's done. And the last thing I have is a plus 1 and a minus 1. Those guys cancel, so that's it. This would be my final answer. Now, looking at these problems. Mommy. Okay, so moving on. That was number 1. Okay, so looking back, guys. Number 1, it has a negative, so you're going to distribute that negative like we did. And then number 2, it also has a negative, so you need to make sure you distribute the negative to all 3 terms. Number 3 has a positive. So when you have a positive in the middle of 2 polynomials, guys, all you do is drop the parentheses and you just smush and see what you can combine. Same thing for this guy too. Since it's a positive, you don't have to distribute, so you're just going to drop the parentheses and then smush whatever you have that you can combine. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is number 5. So it says the product rule states that whenever you multiply 2 terms with the same base, you blank the exponents. So anytime that you multiply 2 terms with the same base, you add the exponents. So let's look at 5a. 5a says you have 6x cubed yz to the 5th times 4x to the 4th y squared z. Alright, so our rule is anytime that you multiply 2 terms with the same base, you add the exponent. So right here, first thing I'm going to do for number 5a, look at the numbers since we're multiplying. First multiply your whole numbers. So 6 times 4 is 24. And then now that I've done the numbers, now we're going to look at the x's. So you have x cubed times x to the 4th. When you multiply, you add the exponent. So it's going to be x to the 7th. Now I'm going to look at the y. So that's done. Look at the y's. You have y to the 1st times y squared. I'm going to add the exponents, so you get y to the third power. Done with that guy. Now I'm looking at the z's. So this is z to the fifth times z to the 1. So this would be z to the sixth. And that is your final answer. Alright, next one. So you're going to do letter B the same way. Let's look at the next section. So I'm going to do number 7. So number 7 says, now we're in the section where we're multiplying polynomials. So if you guys see here, this one has 2 terms, and this one has 3 terms. So even though I'm not going to work out number 6, I still want to talk about it. So how I'm going to solve this one is, I just need to multiply and distribute each one of these first terms into all of the second guy. So I'm going to do 2x times this, 2x times this, and then 2x times that. Once I'm done, now I'm just going to distribute this next guy right here, the 3 times this, 3 times that, and then 3 times the last guy. And then you're going to smush it all together and see what they have in common. So I'm going to pick number 7 to do because I think that one's a little bit more complicated because it's a 3 term by 3 term. So I'm going to rewrite that down on my paper really quick. So you have x plus 4x minus 7 times 2x cubed minus 2x plus 3. And you are multiplying. Alright, so let me move this up so y'all can see. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to distribute, and I'm going to start with this x term. So I'm going to multiply this x term. So x times 2x cubed, remember you add the exponents when you multiply, so you get 2x to the 4th power. And then x times negative 2x, you're going to get negative 2x squared. And then x times 3, you're going to get positive 3x. Alright, so I already distribute the x term. Now I need to do the 4x term. So distribute this guy. So 4x times 2x cubed is going to give me 4 times 2 is 8. And then x cubed times x is to the 4th power. So it's going to be 8x to the 4th power. And I'm going to write it underneath the other guy that I just did. Alright, now I have 4x times negative 2x. So 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And x times x is x squared. Alright, so now I need to multiply the 4x times the 3. So 4x times 3 is 12. So I have 12x. Alright, almost done, right? So I distributed the x, I distributed the 4x, so he's done. So now I need to distribute the negative 7. So I'm going to distribute the negative 7 to all 3 terms. So negative 7 times 2 is negative 14x cubed. So that's not there, so I'm just going to write it here. And then negative 7 times negative 2x would give me positive 7 times 2 is 14x. So I'll put it right here. And then negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. So I'll just stick it out to the side. Alright, so now I just have to combine and see what I have. Do you see how this is the only guy that I had with the x cubed power? So that just chills. Bring him down. Here, 8 and 2 is 10x to the 4th. Here I have 8 and 2, so it's negative 10x to the 2nd power, so squared. And then I have 14 plus 12 plus 3, so that would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so 29x. And then minus 21. Now, I'm done, but I'm going to rewrite, because remember, I like to do biggest to smallest, so I'm going to flip it and do 10x to the 4th minus 14x cubed minus 10x squared plus 29x minus 21. And that's my final answer. Ta-da! Okay. Moving on, so let's do number 8 real quick. Number 8 is pretty simple, but there's a lot of letters, so I do want to go over it. You have 2g plus h times w plus m. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to FOIL. Even though there's no numbers, we can still do it. So I'm going to FOIL. So multiply the first, 2g times w. So there's nothing in common, so it's 2gw. Outer, you get 2g times m, so it's 2gm. Inner, you get h times w, so it's just hw. And then last, you get h times m, so it's hm. Now I'm going to check, do I have any terms in common? Like, do they have the same last name? And they don't, so this is my final answer. I cannot simplify it any further. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Alright, last one I'm going to do is number 9. And number 9 is very similar, guys, to, let me see, can you see it? There you go. Number 9 is very similar to number 8. The only thing is they condensed it, so this means x plus y squared. When you're multiplying that, you do not distribute the 2. Do not distribute. You cannot, this is not the same thing as x squared plus y squared. I have a lot of kids that end up doing that. That is wrong. That is bad math manners. Don't do that. So what this means is you have to write this as x plus y times x plus y, just like that. So from here, you're going to have to FOIL. So don't distribute. Make sure you FOIL. So this is number 9. So I'll bring this up a little bit. So you have x plus y times x plus y. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to FOIL. So multiply the first. X times x is x squared. Outer, you get x times y, so you get xy. Inner, you get y times x, which is the same thing as xy, right? Because 2 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 2. We can do that. And then the last thing is y times y. So I'm going to get y squared. Now check, do they have anything in common? So do you see how these guys look very similar? They're the same. They're simplified terms, so we can simplify even further by smushing them together. So I'm going to write x squared plus, and there's 2 of these guys, so 2xy plus y squared. And that's your final answer.